Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Hall. This week, I'm joined by Kyle Kohlmorgen. He's the founder and head brewer at Wellspent Brewing. He was an owner, but he isn't any longer, and he's loving that. He's going to explain why. We're going to get into the show in just a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by Lawson's Finest Liquids, and joining me on the line is Sean Lawson. He's the namesake of the brewery, and this week, we're talking about specialty beer releases. Sean, what's coming up from the brewery in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, the warmer seasons, as it were?
Yes, John. I'm so excited about this summer's beers. We're bringing two beers that have never been available outside of Vermont. The first in July is a really fun beer called Hopsalot IPA. And those of you that are fish fans out there might know where this name came from. But the origin story is even more fun. Local Vermont band called The Grift asked us to brew a beer for their 15th anniversary about 7 years ago. And Hopsalot IPA is the result. It's a whirlwind tour of 8 hops from around the globe, all fusing together in just an amazing punch of flavor. Coming later in the summer towards Labor Day and for the fall months is our Kiwi Double IPA. Fans have been asking steadily and readily for us to bring this beer to distribution, and you'll be able to find it in cans and draft this September. Also available over the summer, we're returning our favorite number 8 in the Super Session series, and that features single hop session IPA with Mosaic, a very juicy peach forward session beer. It's great for the summer months, very thirst quenching. So can't wait to share all of those beers with our fans out there across our territory. So thanks for asking, John.
Of course. Well, you're going to be back with us at the bottom of the show to talk more about some additional specialty releases. But in the meantime, I'll invite everybody to check out lawsonsfinest.com to learn more about these beers and all of your other beers. We're also sponsored by NZ Hops, the cooperative of master hop growers. They are a passionate collective of farms dedicated to innovation and sustainability. Leading the charge in sustainable farm practices, some NZ hop farms have over 5 generations of knowledge that inform their composting program, used by growers to promote healthy, regenerative growth of hops year upon year. This creates high-quality soil, a critical component of healthy growing conditions. At NZ Hops, they feel that sustainability is not just being a steward for the land, but also for our future. We're in it together. Join the conversation at nzhops.co.nz or on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. We're also brought to you by Dragon's Milk White from New Holland Brewing Company. It reimagines what a stout can be. Your vessel will be filled with the color of gold, and yet there's something more to this white stout than meets the eye. Aged in bourbon barrels, Dragon's Milk White is smooth and velvety, abounding with notes of coffee, chocolate, and vanilla to present classic stout flavors in a delicious new way, all in a sessionable 6% ABV package. Find Dragon's Milk White near you at dragonsmilk.com. Welcome to the show. Over the last few months, I've been occasionally drinking beers by Wellspent Brewing Company in Missouri, and I've been impressed with each offering poured into a glass. Being naturally curious, I reached out to Kyle Kohlmorgen to find out more about the beer, and soon stumbled into a story of passion, ownership, loss, and redemption. To quote Kyle, "It's been short and expensive, but fun at least. I made a ton of mistakes, and my business sense continues to be poor. So I'm glad Wellspent is in better hands ownership-wise. When I was the brewer/owner, I wasn't doing a great job at either. I'm happier as a brewer." So that's what this episode is in a nutshell. Kyle does a better job teasing it all out. So let's get right into it. He spoke to me from the brewery in St. Louis. I get to talk to a lot of brewers, and that's the perk of this job. And a lot of the time the conversations like this are broadcast, and then other times it's just kind of shooting the shit in the background of, well, what's it been like or what's going on. And in anticipation of this conversation with you, one of the phrases that sort of comes up, especially over the last 2 years or so, is, oh, it's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down and up and down. And a lot of the times it's just the same old thing that everybody else has been going through. It's worry, it's uncertainty. It's, can we make our bills, or what's it going to be? And roller coaster, I think, is collectively, we've all been on it. In reading about you, I mean, you're on a totally different ride than the rest of us these last couple of years. And I'm not trying to make light of the situation, because I'm sure that there's a lot of frustration and heartbreak that went along with all of this. And while I don't usually start the shows this way, I wonder if you'll sort of give us the story of Wellspent.
Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of start with Wellspent. I quickly, I was an engineer in food and beverage for about 10 years. And in that time I was, it's the same old story. I was home brewing and had dreams of bigger things, and started putting together a business plan, 5 or 6 years before we opened. And because I'm an engineer, I overthink everything. And it took quite a while to really, just start on building a brewery, building Wellspent. And so my wife and I finally got there, and we really kicked things off in 2017 and opened officially in March of 2018. And we're a little 5-barrel brewery, and we have 1,500 square feet, 2,000 square feet of people space with our inside space and a patio space. It really was just kind of meant to be what I saw on the West Coast in terms of like Cellar Maker or even Hair of the Dog, or places like that were small and just cranking out beer for the people that were there. And that's what we wanted to do too. And we saw that working in St. Louis because there was just a lot of really great beer being made here, and people really responded to it. So we opened, and we were doing pretty well. We had a good, solid customer base. But what we didn't have was kind of a support system. My wife and I started the brewery by ourselves. She kept her full-time gig and really kind of stayed away from the brewery from a day-to-day operations perspective, because she still does what she loves, and allowed me to kind of just run the business and the brewery, which is a lot. It's a lot to take on. And It was to me, like it's too much for one person if you're going to be a business of this size, where you really have to pay some major bills, especially back to the bank. And so we kind of fought the good fight for about 2 years. We had a really good customer base. Like I said, we're doing good business, but it really wasn't good enough business to kind of make up for the big bank loans we had, honestly. So we closed in August of 2019 and put the brewery up for sale. We got to the point where we were really pulling money out of one pocket to put in the other pocket type thing. We were just juggling bills and things, and got to the point where we couldn't pay for our big things like liquor licenses and stuff. And those are things that you can't really
kind of critically
run
important.
Without. Yeah, so we kind of saw it coming about 6 months into 6 months really into it, and then
6 months into being open, you saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been sooner than that, really, because it was. You said roller coaster earlier. It's kind of really a self-inflicted roller coaster. I thought we could start off and sell as much beer as other breweries in town were already selling. But what I didn't really account for was the fact that there's a growth period there. There's time where it's not just time where you're not opening, you're trying to get open. After you get open, you really have to give people a reason to both come in and come back. And so even though we were doing pretty good business, we just couldn't dig ourselves out of that hole that we dug ourselves really with kind of debt that we accrued before we opened, just to get the place open.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing.
Debt is not something that, I mean, just one as people, aren't comfortable talking about, but it doesn't get talked about enough in the in the beer circles, because when you're saying you're taking money out of one pocket to go into the other, I mean, that's been the model for a while of, okay, we need to be open on the weekends. We need to have some releases, like, the new releases mean that we get to keep the lights on for, another month and pay the bills and kind of go from there. When you were putting the business plan together for this, or when you were thinking about this, like, did it actually match reality with what you thought it was going to do? Like, when you look back now, I'm not calling this a mistake, because it's just life experience, but like, where didn't it sync up with what you thought it could do with what actually happened?
Yeah, well, it's a chain of mistakes, not just one big one. It's kind of like more like lots of little ones, right? Yeah, like I said, I took 5 or 6 years to build this business plan out, and the main crux of the whole business plan was, how much beer can you sell? How many people do you think will come in and buy your beer? And that's something.
You run a 5-barrel system.
Yeah, and we could, like production. I spent more time thinking about how much beer we could make versus how much, beer we could sell, and how to actually do that. Because over the 5 years previous to that, as we were building the business plan, we saw breweries, even from big to small, from Urban Chestnut, who's a very large brewery, has bigger aspirations, to perennial breweries like Civil Life, that really just they concentrate on the beer itself and being kind of a community place. And we saw those places take off, and so we thought we could kind of do the same. And it's by the time we got open, it was really something you can still do. You just really have to give people a reason to come to your space instead of another. So we didn't put a lot of thought behind marketing. I mean, I think our brand's beautiful, and the person we got to kind of do our artwork, who still does our artwork, is fantastic. He gave us a really good foundation of artwork. But we didn't really talk about, we didn't really think about actively advertising, actively like getting people in the door and how we were going to do that. We just, opened with honestly a lot of bravado that, like, hey, if I just open these doors and make this beer that, I think I know how to make, that people will respond to that. And they will, but you have to get them in first, so that was the big crux of it. We had a kind of a upward slope of people coming in and doing better and better business. And, as we got, as we figured out Instagram, as we figured out events, as we figured out these little things, we got to a place where we could have been pretty comfortable, but, you start with that, like I said, the debt hole that you start with.
Yeah.
And, it's something you can't really dig out of. I listen to both your podcasts, a lot of podcasts that talk about newer breweries that have partners, have, 2 or 3 people that, pool their money, and then they all do something different in the brewery. And that's how that relationship works. And, honestly, when I was in the first phase of Wellspent, I was jealous of that, because that's, I didn't have a support system like that. No, we have a great team of employees, but no one besides myself and my wife that had skin in the game until we sold.
Again, it kind of comes down to, I guess, when you say it's sort of a series of mistakes that happen along the way. I'm always curious, to do the post-mortem on stuff. And are there things, aside from, finding, other partners or somebody else who could help pull the money or anything else like that, are there things that you look at now, aside from, okay, we should have been doing marketing and things like that? Are there things that, like, you think about now where you're like, damn, like, why didn't I do that back then?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have success stories on your show, even. They talk about how, we started with a 1.5 barrel system, and I'd never do that again. But the good part about that is you start small with small inputs, and then you can kind of build on that, even though it takes longer to get to where you want to go. Like, what we started with was where we wanted to go. We started with 5-barrel brewery and 85 seats inside and 100 plus outside, because we thought that's all the things we needed, because we heard that from other people. But if we would have started smaller, if we would have had a little bit less input, if we wouldn't have had to take money from a bank to build the big grandiose plan, we probably, it would have taken us longer to get to where we were going, but at least we still would have been doing it. I mean, that's, I say that, but I kind of, I feel pretty good about doing the postmortem on this, because COVID would have steamrolled us anyway. Like, I feel like if it was just myself and my wife, like, we wouldn't have been able to survive on our own, no matter where we were, unless we started with some type of contract model or something. But we have the, and that kind of is I don't want to call it a silver lining, but it's something we can at least kind of take a little bit of solace in, is that, we didn't make it, and we had some mistakes along the way, and we had to do some things different to kind of prop this brewery up, prop the people up in it. But we are still, from those ups and downs, we're still in a better place. The brewery's in a better place now. My wife and I are in a better place now than we would have been had we kind of soldiered on. And we can talk about, I have that fear about other breweries, that are in that same spot now. We talked about debt. And so business owners are a scrappy bunch that will do what it takes to stay open. And, that debt still the COVID debt still may catch up to some people. I hope not, but it kind of is what it is.
I mean, I think you're probably right. And I'm hearing from folks now and again. Again, these are difficult conversations for people to have. So, I mean, thanks for having it with me right now and letting me share this with everybody who's listening. But some of the few conversations that I've had in the last couple of weeks, people are saying like, yeah, it's nice to have people back in, but like my bank loans are still due. And, like maybe I'm at, 60% of what I used to be. And there's a little bit of that fear that's in the voice. When you were at that 6-month point, when you really started looking at something, what was it that like really made the alarm bell sound? Was it really just looking at the sheet at the end of the day or at the end of the week or the end of the month and being like, well, shit, this isn't adding up? Or were there other things contributing to, that feeling, that sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we kept soldering on. We saw, we were definitely putting money into the business every, too often to what we thought. We were putting money in. We had to, take out a credit card or something, and we knew that, it was a thing where we can either make it work or not. Like we didn't really see the end of the line. We saw that like this is going to be a rough climb, and we either can dig our way out or not. And so we just kept going until we finally, kind of crossed that path of like, oh yeah, this is something we can't really overcome. But that came pretty late. Like I said, that was, we closed after we couldn't pay for our, liquor licenses or, we got into that hole. And so we made those decisions pretty quick because we're like, oh yeah, well, we're in this space now, but we tried for as long as we could.
Do you think that there is a false sense of success that exists in the craft beer space? And I guess what I mean by that is you hear you named a whole bunch of breweries before, Urban Chestnut and Perennial, and the ones out on the West Coast that you sort of made your modeled on. But when you go to large brewing events, brewers conferences or whatever, or you hear some of the very, very large brewers on CNBC or, giving stories where it's, oh, there's growth and we're up, the segment's up X% this year. In some cases, like, it seems like, well, I can't lose. And I think that there are people who sort of get into it thinking that like, it's going to be easy. And I'm not suggesting that you did, but I'm curious if, like, knowing what you know now, if the narrative that's out there, in media, in drinking circles, in and among craft brewers, even themselves, is an accurate one.
I mean, I'm gonna say what I think, but then I go against it in my personal experience. Like the craft beer is now a pretty mature business or pretty mature industry, and so I think the breweries that have been around a while, even if they started off and didn't know shit about business like I did. They could, they've kind of meandered along, they've clawed and scraped and, fought to kind of get to where they are. And hopefully as they've done that, they've matured both as brewers and as business people. So they've either brought people in to help them out, or they've, had investment from people that have some better business savvy, or just kind of like built a more sound business to kind of, weather a storm long-term, kind of, be a long-term business, something they could, spend a life doing. I think that may not have been something that a lot of people thought about when they started a brewery. I didn't. I thought that we would kind of just go as long as we could, and see what came of it. But, I say that, but I also got into it without that foresight. I got into it, and just didn't have any help, didn't have any business experience, and just thought, we'll just start off. We'll be the new brewery that like does really well, and as we kind of taper off into not being the new thing anymore, we'll have a business set up to what we can build on, a foundation we can build on, instead of building that foundation from the get go. So I just know really my personal experience. I know I have the St. Louis brewing community is pretty tight, and we have a lot of really good people in this town that do great things for other breweries and are very open about how they do business really. And the breweries, especially that have been around 10 years now, which is kind of a lot of our second wave of breweries. They've just matured as a business, and so they've built a business that is kind of can prop itself up, has a good foundation, but also is good for their employees, and is a place that is built to last, I guess. I think you can kind of see, at least from the inside looking out, like it's easier to see it if you're in the industry, you're in the city, you're kind of have a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain, but you can see these breweries are they're building a good foundation for themselves to be around for 30, 40 years or longer.
Yeah. When you're going through that and you have, the bank loans and you're taking out credit cards and you're thinking all of that. I mean, it's one thing, pride for the business, you're proud of everything that you're doing. You're trying to make good beer and have good customer interaction. What does that do for just, your physical and mental health?
I wasn't really, I don't think I did it long enough to really have it wear on me. I knew it was going to be
good on you.
Yeah. I knew it was going to be a hard thing to do. It was probably the hardest thing I was ever going to do. And it was, I spent more time, I put more effort into this place than I did, finishing engineering school or any of the jobs that I had before, like any, whatever, there's no comparison to it. But it was all, I was still fresh, it was like, I got this business open and I'm ready to just like pile it on. We opened in 2018 and we had a 7-month-old at the time and a
oh, that's not hard at
2-year-old. Yeah, it was a lot. But again, the not having that support system was a huge fault of mine. Again, you said you mentioned pride, and pride is definitely what it's too much of that. Like I can do all this. I don't need any help. I think you're thinking that subconsciously. Like this is something all I can do. It's not that big a deal. It's a small business, but you all of a sudden you've built this place, and it's a lot to manage.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a lot to manage, but like, it's also like your place. Like you've put your name on the shingle that you've hung out. Like you're, like asking for help, I think is tough in a business sense as well, especially because like people, I don't know. I think people know that running a small business is really hard, but unless like you're in it, you really can't like accurately articulate it to, people who haven't had that same life experience.
Yeah. And, asking for help is kind of a tough thing to do when what you really need is someone to, like be in it with you. You need someone to really put down a lot of effort alongside you. And if you can't hire that, it's tough to have that person to really help you out unless you have someone that's got a vested interest, unless you have someone that's got skin in the game. If it's a partner or someone.
I was going to say, like, to hire somebody, but when you don't have the money to hire somebody, that becomes
also that. Yeah, that was also a thing. So you end up doing more jobs yourself. I think you hear those stories of people who weren't successful in business, and it really does. It's like everything just piles up, not just debt, but also work. It's like you don't have the money to hire other people, so you end up doing those things. So you end up not doing anything very well. That's definitely where I was. And even like as we restarted this business, we put down a good support system of employees, but we needed to figure out what else we needed. And so, we're just now like putting a taproom manager in place so that they can really run the front of house. So I've been doing that since we reopened.
So let's talk about that then. So you actually take the steps, you emptied the tanks, you closed the business.
Yeah. So we closed up. We basically, we put the brewery up as a we were selling a tank, but we were selling an entire brewery. We put like ads up on, Pro Brewer and things. Sure. Brewery for sale. And that's kind of where we were.
And you were going to do like a turnkey operation.
Yeah. We were kind of staring down the barrel of bankruptcy personally. But the thing that people don't realize about bankruptcy is that you can't afford it because you have to have a specialized attorney to go through bankruptcy, and that's a 5-digit deal. And a 5-digit tab, I should say, a bill. So you don't have any money, so it's like it's very difficult to manage that on your own. But we did all that. We looked at all that. We met with attorneys. We got ready just to kind of go down that path, basically. And then we started to hear from people. It was so it's the end of 2019. So it's like economy's booming, and it's no one's heard the word COVID before.
Oh yeah, no, there's been no. Yeah,
I mean, it's a weird
stocking up on toilet paper. No, yeah.
What a weird thing to think about now is like how crazy it was in 2019, which was a year and a half ago.
I know,
or 2 years ago now. It's.
I'm not. It really is. I was having a conversation with somebody just the other day about one of the shows, and they were like, "Oh, I was listening to that interview, and I was like, God, that was like how many years ago?" And it's like that was the end of 2019.
Yeah, it's 28 months.
I was like, that feels like just like I was a younger man because I was. Yeah.
We've bottled beer older than that, and we're not even that old. But it's it. I mean, it was great. We had a couple weeks of just like nothing, and then we started to really get getting bites on it. We talked to a lot of folks. We had a lot of meetings and like this was everything from other breweries that are looking to expand their footprint or expand their kind of their offerings or whatever. And then, like restaurants or bars that wanted like another space, but also a private label, like beer brand, like all kinds of different stuff.
More with Kyle Kohlmorgen in just a moment, but first a word of thanks to the companies that help keep Drink Beer, Think Beer on the air. Head to Vermont and check out Lawson's Finest Liquids. Their taproom, beer garden, and retail store are open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday. Get food, beer, and Vermont hospitality all in one place. Learn more at lawsonsfinest.com. Also, check out NZ Hops. At NZ Hops, they feel that sustainability is not only being a steward for the land, but for our future. We're in it together. Join the conversation at nzhops.co.nz or on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. And we're also brought to you by Dragon's Milk White from New Holland Brewing Company. Aged in bourbon barrels, it's smooth and velvety, abounding with notes of coffee, chocolate, and vanilla, all at a 6% ABV. Learn more at dragonsmilk.com. And now back to my conversation with Kyle Kohlmorgen of Wellspent Brewing. Can I ask you, though, as you were entertaining these offers and as people were coming through, because obviously if you're staring down bankruptcy, like you want to get the best offer and you want to make sure that whatever is going to come through is going to try to make you as whole as possible and that you can walk away with as little damage as possible. But was there some part of you that was also saying, okay, if I am going to sell, this to a turnkey operation, somebody that's going to make this, their own, I want to feel good about it? Or was this just strictly like, did you want to like the people that were going to buy it, or was it just these people are going to help me get out of this situation?
I sure wanted to. Like, I hope for the best, but at the same time, you're kind of not really left with a whole lot of choice, Yeah. And so, the big part about the big deal breaker for most of these was that we had to get right on the debt that we had. If you wanted to buy this business, part of buying the business was settling debt. So that basically was the payment of the business, or of the, to buy the space. It was basically just like covering what we owed so that we could walk away from it. But the ones that were interested were all interested in not just buying the space, but also folding me in somehow, kind of incorporating it as, buying the brand as well. We didn't think we had any brand equity. We were only open 2 years, but that was part of it was,
so you had people saying, "Hey, we're interested in this. We'll do the terms, but we want you."
Yeah, in one way or another, it was.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's someone who's already kind of here, and I think you're for the price that we were asking for, you wanted a true turnkey operation, which meant someone to turn the key.
Sure.
Yeah, so we had a lot of those conversations, and frankly, it was a long couple months because none of the offers were very good. It was me working really hard to make someone else's beer, and it was not looking great. But it was.
And were those offers? I'm sorry to interrupt. I because this is something that I imagine other folks who might be listening might have to go through at some point, unfortunately. And were you finding that people who were putting some of the offers in understood the position that you were in, and we're just trying to how low can we get this? And I know that's good business. Like if you're buying a house or whatever, like you put in the offer that you hope people are going to accept or anything. But did you feel that there were, I don't know, predatory people who were trying to put in offers?
No, it was more just like opportunistic, like different businesses looking really to expand.
Just the word by a different name, but yeah,
they were gonna build a space anyway, and so this space is built. And so let's take a look at this, this opportunity, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, anybody.
I'm not trying to make the world to be out to be super evil, but yeah.
Yeah, I now you talk about people facing this now. I think that if we would have shut down during COVID, we wouldn't have been there. We wouldn't have been able to sell this business. It would have been a different ball game. Yeah.
So eventually an offer came through, and it was one that you liked.
We had a couple, and then I don't know if I've ever told Evan this story, and so he might be hearing it for the first time now. But we were talking to a couple of different people. Like we were kind of none of the options were very good, and this one guy sends me an email like, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in buying your brewery." I'm like, "Oh." It's his personal email. Like it's just like a guy. I'm like,
it's okay. A Gmail account. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of I recognize the name because I think he'd been he was a customer. He'd been a couple of times. But I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, come on. I'm not doing anything. So why don't you come by the brewery? We'll talk about it. And this was Evan Chance, our new owner, and kind of spoiled the ending to it. But yeah, he was legit. Like it was something to where he was looking to kind of expand. He is a pretty successful business person. He owns some other businesses that are successful because of him. He's put in a lot of sweat equity to them. He's a pretty smart guy, and I kind of he was looking into investing in something. And really he was like, his options were lucrative but boring, real estate or something. But like he loved our brewery and he loved our beer and was a pretty regular customer, and kind of saw an opportunity to not just invest in something that he believed in, but invest in, a space that made him feel good, made his, something that he felt like was a little bit more tangible, a little bit more, good, I guess. So that was it.
Did you have a lot of interactions with him when he was a customer?
When he walked in, I recognized him, but he wasn't a super regular customer to the point where I knew him by name.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd been in a few times, but I just was super impressed by our beer and really liked hanging out here. And I think, he had good experiences here. And so we met with him probably 3 or 4 times, and then got real serious about it in terms of doing due diligence and talking to lawyers and things. And I think finally made the sale official and final in November of that year. So we shut down
November of 19.
Yeah. So we shut down in August, and then
you lucky SOB.
That's what he says. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's, yeah, we, again, no one saw COVID going, but like we closed the sale and then we opened back up in February. And I mean, like everything just looks so good. We had what we needed. We had that missing piece. Evan was a good business person. He made some changes right off the bat. Not to the like he completely like left the beer alone. But like we had like another space like right next to the brewery for our barrels. It was about a quarter filled maybe, and it was about half of our rent. So it was like, well, let's just let's see if we can fit everything in one building. And so we cut our rent in half, and we we paid debts, and then like just put people in places and made sure that we were adequately staffed and like really just in a position to do really good things in 2020. I think that's kind of that's the story of everybody, right? Is everybody was really positioned to just do great stuff in 2020.
But it sounds like just over the course of 3-4 months, somebody with different perspective, different ideas, looking at things maybe not from the rose colored glasses that you had coming into it, on some levels, right? Instituted some good changes that had COVID not happened, like, damn, this is pretty okay.
Yeah, I mean, he took a deep dive into our finances and like did some just like stuff that just makes sense from a business perspective that you just don't see when you're in it. Like little things add up, but also big things like we didn't set off to be a brewery that made like big bombastic beers, but he like went through our sales data and was like, what's this one day where you made $10,000? And we're like, well, that's the day we had a barley stout release. Should you probably do that more often?
Yeah,
I guess
probably. Yeah,
we probably could do that. Just literally, it's crazy the things that you don't see as you have those blinders on, or it's just as you just don't have the experience, like really looking at. I mean, it sounds boring and it sounds like something that you don't need, but like you have those three. You have your P&L statements and your cash flow statements, and like all those things are just like, oh yeah, let the accounting nerds deal with that. But that is like, those are real important stuff that we just that allows you to like make.
It's why successful breweries have accountants.
Yeah. So I mean, that's that's what I heard. I didn't I wasn't one. But now we do have them. We do have accountants and lawyers. So we got all that covered. But yeah, so like that, we just made, and that was the great thing about it was, he wanted me to come back and basically pay me to be a brewer. So I sold all of the business to him, 100% of the business to him, and then I am an employee of his now, of the breweries now. I talked my kind of partner in crime, Dave Dawes. He's our other brewer. Mm-hmm. I talked him into coming back. He was working for another brewery and a good brewery in St. Louis, and I convinced him to come back. So Evan was on board with that. So we were hitting the ground running with kind of the same team we had. We had a great staff. He put us all in the right place to be able to do that build step that I didn't account for. Over the course of 2020. So we had some cash reserves. So we knew that we were going to need some time to kind of build a customer base, build a business, and before the business kind of steady off and be self-sustaining, financially at least. But we were in a good space to do that, which also kind of, didn't prepare us for the depth of different business that we had to go through before COVID, but at least we were in a place to where we knew kind of had a little money tucked away for kind of that building business, and we just used that to survive COVID, really.
Yeah. It occurs to me as you're telling this story of historical beer context of Fritz Maytag in the 1960s in San Francisco, drinking at his local watering hole where he was one of the only ones who was drinking steam beer, Anchor Steam. And the the way that the story goes, and I'm probably butchering this just a little bit, but the barman says, enjoy this while you can. This brewery is closing. If you've never visited, it's right up the street. You should go check it out. Something along those lines. And so Fritz Maytag, being Fritz Maytag of the washing machine and blue cheese family, walks up the street, looks at the brewery, and decides to just buy it on the spot because he enjoyed drinking the beer. And that's the legend of Anchor in the modern sense. There seems to be sort of just vestiges in there. Like, you never know who's drinking your beer, and you never know who can help you out in a time of need, or sees the value in the hard work that you're doing and can actually put the resources behind it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I'm basically calling you the Anchor of the Midwest.
Yeah. Well, let's skip that part about how that's not a great comparison, but I guess it's
for them.
Was right.
Yeah.
My dad always said, you got to be nice to everybody. You never know who you're being nice to, and we kind of parlay that into our business, just making sure anyone that comes to the door has a great experience. That's just because I think that makes the beer taste better. But yeah, I mean, that's how it worked out. I mean, I think Evan saw something that was worth saving, and I wasn't one to argue.
Yeah. So the obvious question is, somebody comes in, it's your branding, it's your name. They're not touching the beers, and they've hired you as an employee to work at a place that you founded. Are there mental gymnastics to go through to get to that? Was it sort of an easy decision? Is it a relief off your shoulder? Does it feel weird?
I mean, it was.
I realize you're probably going to temper yourself here because he signs your checks now, but.
Well, I mean, but we're pretty frank.
Okay.
It was we've used the word roller coaster so many damn times in this thing, but it was an emotional roller coaster because we closed the brewery. We basically gave it a funeral. We kind of put it to bed in our kind of in our minds. We kind of we weren't moved on, but we were at a place where we thought that Wellspent was over, that the things that we built were done. And it was a weird thing to really entertain that idea of, well, this brand it's not dead anymore. It's not mine, but it's not dead. And is that important? But I think the big thing is one, it was we were in a space to do exactly what I wanted to do. I could go and brew for another brewery and have a good career, but Evan allows me to really be the brewer I want to be. So that was the main selling point. But also it gives, we have a small staff, but we still have a staff that is still part of this business, still believes in it, even though it's not technically mine anymore. I think that they have, it's kind of latched onto the whole of it. The fact that Evan and Kristen really know the kind of right way to navigate us into the future. And I'm there too. I think that this business, I always wanted Wellspent to be a business when we owned it that could operate without me from a day-to-day standpoint, and that I would, be able to just kind of look ahead and look towards, doing, really just really fuck around, I guess, but be in a place where I could just challenge myself creatively. And we're still building to that now. We're still at a place where, the success of the business is going to be to where Wellspent can operate without me from a day-to-day standpoint. And I can just be looking ahead and thinking about, what comes next, and just doing things that really kind of keep me engaged, can keep our customers engaged, which is good. I mean, it's good if it's good for me long-term, or it's good if I get hit by a truck too. So it still allows the business to thrive.
Well, so you said the brewer that you always wanted to be. What were you making when you were the owner in that time that you were opened that didn't thrill you, and what are you making now that speaks to your brewer soul?
Well, I'm incredibly critical about our beer, And so we're still, I know nothing really speaking to my soul yet. But like, I have this, like, I continually just want to be better, and I don't want to do it at the expense of our customer base. I don't want to just continue to make mistakes and learn from them and have that be the beer that people are drinking from us. And so being able to kind of root ourselves and make beer that is not just average to above average, to be truly great beer in the context of our customer base. People really enjoy our beer and really think highly of it. I want to be there now, and but that, like, that process is a long one, and it should, I kind of think partially like it doesn't. I kind of cheated the system a little bit. I didn't pay my dues. I didn't, go through a long, apprenticeship program, or I wasn't a brewer for 10 years before we started the brewery. I just, I kind of jumped to the front of the line and started, making my own beer. And so I don't want that to, kind of show in the beer. I want to be, I want our beer to be really great. And to do that, it takes a lot of, self-improvement and learning. And I didn't want to just learn from making beer and make mistakes. I want to learn from our other, like, my counterparts in the industry. I want to learn from our colleagues, and I want to learn from, going to other breweries, visiting other breweries, and any way I can just absorb knowledge and make the beer better. I want to do it. And so I have to have time to do it. That's the thing about running a business and brewing, is that you just don't have time to improve. You try what you can, but you're just basically doing it, by trial by fire. And that's not fair to our customers, to, like, not give them the beer that they really deserve because you're just not good enough at it yet.
So what's in your tanks now that you're excited about?
I'm excited that St. Louis loves lager. St. Louis, we started.
It's kind of known for lager.
Yeah, we make some lager here, and we started like every other. I feel like every other brewery started around our time had the same idea. It's like, we're gonna be something different, so we're gonna basically just make all our beers with saison yeast. And so we started that way, and we made the first batch of lager, and we dumped it because I didn't like it. And it took us about 6 months to make another one, and people really liked it, so we started making lager, and we've been able to. That's one thing where we can kind of like hone our skill and then do enough batches of lager to really, find our niche, find our kind of groove in terms of, like, knowing the yeast and knowing what we like in our year-round lagers, and then be able to kind of explore, outside of that. So we had just one, we called it Wellspent lager. We had one lager forever, and kind of got that to a point where we really liked it, and started to kind of explore new styles of lager, whether that be, we would check dark lager and like a corn lager that we made with popcorn and other things. And so we're just kind of slowly, going back in time, really. And our customer base has allowed us to do that. So between the customers that come here, and then during COVID, we started a membership club. And so they get 2 4-packs of beer that are different beers every month. And so we have kind of a space to put new ideas. We still have to deliver for them. The beer still has to be great, but they're kind of along the ride with us. We challenged them a little bit, and they're, like, super stoked about an alt beer and about a West Coast style red ale, things like that. So we're really.
What is a West Coast style red ale? Is that just like more Munich? Like, what's the?
We train our staff not to use the word amber.
Okay.
Because people have I think people think pretty old school, and they think, well, that's what it is. It's like an amber that's made in the California brew pub. So it's
what's the grain bill on that? Because I feel like I probably just stepped on myself by.
American pale malt, a little bit of Cara Munich, and then, like, your things to make it red. So we use a little special B because that's what we have for other beers, and then maybe a little a dark crystal. So it's an amber, 6% amber ale, but we hop it with Cascade, Centennial.
But hang on a second, amber won't sell?
I don't know. I think amber feels like an old. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe this is just me making it up. Maybe red and amber are both interchangeable in the minds of our customers. We continue to learn.
Know. I mean, when I think of like red ale, I'm thinking of like George Killian's from my college days.
Yeah, but you and I are, we've
We're
done this
old.
longer than most people. Yeah, we've done this longer than most people coming into the brewery, I think. So I don't think they know what George Killian's Irish Red is. Uh, um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up. Uh, we continue to learn more about like vernacular and like what means things to people and what doesn't, and I think it's completely different from city to city, even.
Yeah.
Things. We used to have a bartender that also worked for a brewery in Rolla, Missouri, and people would ask for a pale ale, but they didn't mean like Sierra Nevada pale ale. They didn't mean hoppy, blonde, slightly bitter. They meant cream ale. They meant something a beer that is literally pale and literally not a lager. And so that just like I mean, how so,
styles are dead. Yeah.
Yeah. But lager, everyone, pale lager, people understand.
Sure.
And then they understand pale lager, they understand Pilsner. And then you can kind of put other things on the tap list next to them, like, oh yeah, well, this is a lager, but it's darker. Or this lager is, it's in a different style, or it's red, or it's, or dare I say amber. People go with that.
What is the demand like for your Rauch beer?
We we haven't brewed it yet. I don't know. It is like we got all the Sugar Creek malt ready. Like it's custom smoked Sugar Creek malt, the good stuff.
Custom smoked.
Yeah. So
tell me about that.
Sugar Creek malt, Indiana. Caleb is a badass. He's doing really cool stuff. They even made he built like a Nordic smokehouse, like a traditional smokehouse that makes.
Yeah, I've been hearing about this.
Really cool operation. And their malts are really good. So we brought in a pallet. We've been working with them little by little, but we brought in a whole bunch of malt to make mostly Saison for the summer. But then while we were there, we were like, well, smoke us up because he has like a drum smoker and or something like that. He can smoke like down to 300 pounds of malt. So yeah, it's like you can pick any base malt style and then from a whole huge list of different woods to smoke it over. So we went pretty traditional, but like it was freshly smoked Munich malt.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so it smells real good, and we are currently fighting some chiller problems. But as soon as we kind of level out, where Rauch beer is the next beer on the agenda, that and seltzer. So
that and seltzer.
Yeah.
Not a smoke seltzer. You're actually just going to do like a real seltzer, right?
Yeah, let's take it one step at a time.
I was going to say the world isn't ready for smoked seltzer yet. I mean, there's 800 people on Facebook who are like totally into it, but that's about it.
Yeah, and they probably don't live here, or in the club. Yeah. Like I said, our membership club, they're on, they are on a ride with us. They're into it, but we're gonna give them the option with the Rauch beer. The Rauch seltzer, I don't think they do it, but we made a small batch of seltzer and it went over pretty well. So we were buying kegs of like draft wine for our gluten-free options, and we're like, well, hell, let's bring it in house. We were making some mead, and mead is something I was interested in doing, and it kind of informed the seltzer process for us. We kind of figured it out. So yeah, it's going to be something that I think we can pull off. But we're not, I'm not buying pallets of slim cans. We don't have that capability. It's just like, it's a gluten-free option for us.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, at this point, I don't know what the analogy is for roller coasters, but it sort of sounds like you're coming back into home base after a little bit of a thrill ride, and you're going to get off and walk the theme park for a while, which is a nice, relaxing and enjoyable thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, we now it's just the same old story of everyone else that's going through COVID, but at least we have, we built Evan's helped us build a foundation that we can jump off of. So we're navigating all the same things that everyone else is navigating COVID wise, but still also, building this brewery that keeps people interested and keeps our customers engaged and happy and stoked to come back. And that's always the driving force.
And customers are happy. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm never satisfied with our beer. I probably never will be, and that's a good thing. But it's a fulfilling place that I'm in. I think off air we were talking about hiring other people, and so we just hired a taproom manager. I was kind of managing both, like the front of house and back of house. And by I mean I wasn't doing a very good managing the front of house, and so we hired someone to do that full time. That's going to be able to have better events and be able to connect with our customers and our employees better, that communication line and everything, and just make sure that we have a steady stream of people coming through here to have a great experience and allow me to really dive in deep in the back and continue to make different beers and make more beer and push our barrel program forward and do all the things, make smoke seltzers if you want. We can't even say it, smoke seltzers.
Don't say it. Don't say it. That's the thing. That there's a reason that it's a tongue twister and that everybody gets tripped up on it is because it shouldn't be said, nor should it be made. Although I'll drink a ton of it if somebody does. Before I let you go, I've been thinking about the way the world is now, and there's the Delta variant of COVID that's sort of going around, and things were opening up and people were excited again. And now there's a little bit of worry about CDC guidelines and what's going to happen going forward. And we're recording this about 2 weeks before it's going to go up on the air. In fact, last week on the show, I mentioned that I was on vacation. This is the last official thing that I'm doing before I go on vacation. So thanks for hanging out with me. But I've been thinking a lot about travel, and I've been thinking a lot about places that I've loved and people that I've loved drinking with. And so I'm going to ask you, this is the first time I'm asking this question on the show, so I'll give you half a second to think about it. But if you could walk out of your door right now and go anywhere and have a beer with anybody, where would you go? What would you drink, and who'd you be with?
I'm kind of in your boat where I'm actually on vacation in a few weeks, and we're going up to Michigan to a kind of coastal, quote unquote, coastal Michigan, hang out there. And I can't really think of I've got lots of colleagues. I don't want to single one out that I haven't seen in a while yet. So that's kind of on my mind. I really want to see kind of my brewing comrades, from all over the place. But I can't really think of one that I would have over another. But having a really good beer in Michigan with my mom is going to be, and my wife, my kids. It's like all I can really think about right now. I'm in vacation mode already. 3 weeks, 3 weeks away. So that's where I'm at now in my headspace. I think international travel for us is quite a few years away with the kids that are 6 and 4. So we're thinking small, but thinking small and important and meaningful. And so these trips to, the middle Missouri River or to Michigan or things are kind of where we're at, and where it's really where we're building a good life experiences, both in beer and outside of beer. So that's where I'm at right now. I think festivals will come when festivals are ready to come through. We'll eventually get back. I'm excited to get back to festivals because we don't do very many of them. Until then, let's go to either the middle of nowhere or small towns in Michigan and have a few pints of Two Hearted with our family.
God, pints of Two Hearted. That sounds damn delightful. Well,
yeah,
Kyle, you're making the people of Marion, Indiana, really, really proud. So keep up the good work, and thanks for being honest and sharing the insights. I know this can't be easy, but I'm glad about the lessons that you've learned that you can share with other people, and I really appreciate your time today being on the show.
Thanks. Yeah, if you can help anybody, either already starting a brewery or thinking about starting a brewery, that's hopefully I can help sway them not to start one.
A quick reminder before we go to check out the merch page of beeredge.com for Camp Rauch beer and Defend Pilsner glassware and shirts, and to check out the webpage to sign up for the newsletter and to listen to Andy Crouch's podcast, as well as to read some articles. And to help us keep this show going, reach out to Liz Melby. She can tell you all about our advertising rates if you reach out to liz@beeredge.com. And of course, questions, comments, concerns, or anything else in between, you can always reach me at John Hall, that's JOHNHOLL @beeredge.com, or join the conversation on Twitter at John_Hall. I'm really happy to say that we are sponsored by Dragon's Milk White from New Holland Brewing Company. It reimagines what a stout can be. Your vessel will be filled with the color of gold, and yet there's something more to this white stout than meets the eye. Aged in bourbon barrels, Dragon's Milk White is smooth and velvety, abounding with notes of coffee, chocolate, and vanilla to present classic stout flavors in a delicious new way, all in a sessionable 6% ABV package. Find Dragon's Milk White near you by visiting dragonsmilk.com. And we're also brought to you by NZ Hops, the cooperative of master hop growers. They're a passionate collective of farms dedicated to innovation and sustainability. Leading the charge in sustainable farm practices, some NZ hop farms have over 5 generations of knowledge that inform their composting program, used by growers to promote healthy, regenerative growth of hops year upon year. This creates high-quality soil, a critical component of healthy growing conditions. At NZ Hops, they feel that sustainability is not only being a steward for the land, but for our future. We're in it together. Join the conversation at nzhops.co.nz or on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. As promised, Sean Lawson is back with me. He's the founder of Lawson's Finest Liquids in Vermont, which is a sponsor of this episode. So thank you, Sean. We talked about some upcoming specialty releases in the closer term, but let's push out the calendar a little bit more and talk about what's on tap for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. We have the return of a summer favorite from last year that we're pushing into the fall, our Super Session number 4, classic centennial with notes of lemon and lime, and that'll be available this fall. And later in the year, we'll be bringing to cans for the very first time, as well as draft, our Comet Super Session number 3. We keep people confused by going in no particular order with the numbers, but the beers were born of a initial series that I brewed in Warren, 1 through 12, each a single hop session IPA, and we brought them out in no particular order, just to keep people guessing. But the big headliner for the year is a beer that we've never had out in distribution before, and that is the crown jewel of our Sunshine family, the Triple Sunshine, a triple IPA coming in at 10.5% alcohol, featuring double dry hopping twice, and just an amazing bouquet of any type of tropical or stone fruit you could name is packed into that beer with a nice full body, a little bit sweet finish, and a little bit dangerous at 10.5%.
Well, thanks, Sean. That's awesome. There's a lot to look forward to before 2021 comes to an end, and you can learn more about these beers and find out when exactly they're going to drop by checking out the brewery's website, which is lawsonsfinest.com, and of course following them on all of the various social media channels to keep up with all of the current events happening around the brewery. Sean, thanks again so much for doing this, and thanks for the support of the show.
Thank you, John.
Also, check out Steal This Beer every Monday, the BYO Nano podcast on the 15th of every month, and the Beer Edge podcast. You know the deal, Nate Schweber. He does our music, and Jeff Quinn designed the logo. I'm John Hall. New episodes of this show release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.